And now I'm going to, okay. And now we're going to start.
Okay. All right. So, so let's just get started. We'll delete this first part. But so the first thing that I was going to ask you about is if you could tell me a little bit about. Don't start officially yet. We're gonna have to do this again. Sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Betr and Betr story. So you've been mentioning all these things. Let me start that over.
Tell me what it. So tell
what
me
is
what. So what is a Betr story, Josh?
Okay.
Yeah.
About that.
So
Thank
just you don't have to just say it just super short.
Short. Okay. Here we go. All right. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about Betr and Betr stories specifically. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So what Betr is, it's basically an operating system for how we think the economy might work much more efficiently, where it's a knowledge-based system based upon collective intelligence. So in order to use AI to gather the information that you need to train AI to give you the answers that you really need, you need a format that is easily understood by human beings and AI. So the way that we think that the human brain works is in interpreting any project, any problem, any issue you have in a story format. That's what you watch in a movie or read in a book. But yet we don't use that to solve problems. And so if you know the beginning of the story and you know how it starts, and it's also in a familiar pattern for you, you can then start to have AI complete that story for you and actually project the future.
Okay.
So story and Betr story is the new media that we're creating, and we're using a AI agent to help customize that story for you.
Okay.
So that when you ask it a question, when you have a problem, when you want to find out what people think, the agent will ask people that information knowing that they can see the context of it in an efficient way, so it makes sense for them at that particular time, because everybody's got their own way of understanding the project through the story they have in their mind. But now they're going to be able to see it, and now they're going to be augmented by a piece of technology that allows them to be much more efficient and also understand what truth is.
So can you tell me a little bit about that? How they use it? How do they understand truth using this? Can you dive into that?
Sure. So if you have a problem with your knee and you go to see a doctor, a primary care doctor, and then he sends you to a specialist, and then the specialist has an appointment that you have to wait for. You finally go into their office, they look at your knee, they send you for an MRI, you do the MRI, you get back the results, you go see them again, you then decide that you're going to do surgery. He's the one who's going to be doing the surgery. He then does the surgery, he prescribes pain medication for you, he has run the operation for you in his OR, which you have no idea what mistakes or what issues or anything about that.
Right.
Then you hope and pray insurance pays for it, and then you have to wait to fight the insurance company, fight the hospitals, and fight all these people who have conflicting interests, all because they're fighting over the same thing. What are they fighting over? They're fighting over money. And how are they managing that money? They've got these fictitious companies. So you have fictitious people, fictitious entities who are competing with each other over this game of money. And it's a scarcity game. That doesn't work in a knowledge economy. In a knowledge economy, the value is exactly the opposite. It's how am I going to use the fact that I am suffering from a knee problem, and I'm going to be the first one to expose that information to a centralized database. And not just me, but millions of others, doctors and patients, are going to make money because they're the first to put it into this collective knowledge network. And when they do that, the AI agents now can predict my outcome. So there's a multiple-fold benefit. First, I know I can trust a better doctor versus a regular doctor because they're augmented with a better AI agent. in addition to that, I know that I can understand what the doctor's saying, and it's not foreign to me because it's a document and pictures and text that the AI agent narrates to me because I happen to be technical, or I don't have to be happen to be technical. So the way that this works is the doctor's reputation. When a better doctor graduates from a university, they will come out with their better agent, they'll come out with their profile, and they'll come out with their wallet.
Okay.
My belief is that their ability to have a highly profitable, highly effective team of who they are collaborating with globally, where they can interoperate because they're all talking the same language and standardizing it, will transform the success of that doctor multiple fold. And the wealthiest, most successful doctors will be those who are the first to contribute in a meaningful way to this collective intelligence.
That's interesting. So basically, Betr has access to information that normal AI doesn't have.
That's right. Betr completes the human in the loop to teach AI, well, what happened when I took your suggestion? Did I recover from that knee surgery faster? Did I have an allergic reaction to the medication because my microbiome is not compatible with that medication? Why? Because it has the Candida bacteria in it, and the Candida doesn't work well. Now, why doesn't the Candida work? You have to go down, and eventually you get to an understanding that reality and what we live in is a much more complex thing than we are shown. We're only shown a small portion of reality, a small portion of the music of our minds.
That's really interesting. So you have this better AI, and you mentioned a better assistant. How does that tie in?
So the better assistant is the ability for you to have an agent that knows you better than you know yourself, that is there to support you, and that is your interface to this collective intelligent economy. So it's there to make sure that you are getting rewarded for your better points and doing the best possible job to advocate for you.
Okay.
It's there to make sure that you're on schedule, that you're 24/7 aware of what's going on, and it knows how you work and what you need to do to improve yourself, and it uses that collective intelligence to focus in on making you happier and healthier and more successful, because this world is full of fear and misunderstanding because people don't have the tools at their disposal to understand the mathematics of what it means to survive in an economy that has unlimited knowledge.
That's very interesting. So you mentioned better stories, you talked a little bit about the better assistant. So if I were going to ask you, how do I create a better story, or how do I do this? Like, what does it mean for me personally, for me or people like me?
So basically, the better story is one that might start with you having a meeting in your calendar. We read that meeting, whether it's a Google or Outlook calendar.
Okay.
We see that you have a WebEx meeting or a Microsoft Teams meeting.
Okay.
And instead of using the Teams client or the WebEx client, Betr is taking that video feed, that screen shares, those screen shares, that information, and while the meeting is going on, it's building a better story. It's taking the workflow that you are creating and talking about all the time that might be the thing that's causing you frustration, that you see thousands of videos on that people joke all the time about how inefficient their meetings are.
Yeah.
And it now starts to apply a new science behind intelligent collaboration.
Okay.
Because how you collaborate and how you figure out what the best ways are to improve collaboration is a science. But we've never had the tools to understand that complexity. The mathematics behind collaboration and understanding it is very complex. And you need to be able to understand consciousness, and you need to understand and simulate it so that you can understand how to be able to coach people to have proper outcomes. And when you use collective intelligence and an agent that's helping you tell the story that you're trying to tell to other people, you now have a way to compartmentalize and use energy much more efficiently. So I believe that, let's say, 10%, 15% of what people talk about are efficiently being used. I can't really put a specific numeric number on it because I don't have the understanding of it. But if you think about the fact that people can't understand first how what they're hearing is something that they're going to remember, let alone put into the right compartments, let alone execute it on it correctly, let alone be able to know that that same workflow, that same knowledge is being done millions of times with outcomes that could be measured and could be predicted. You have some understanding of the new economy of collective knowledge networks. What you end up doing is you end up creating an incredible gold rush of being aware of the fact that knowledge is perishable. So if you think about software companies today, and you think about people investing in things like LLMs and hardware, and they're building software, they're building something that is already essentially just a matter of time before it's commoditized.
Replaceable, right.
And you can predict when it's going to be commoditized. So why, as an investor, would you put your money into something that can be distilled, be recreated? And where should your money go? Because you've got all of this huge potential energy of money, and it's being misdirected in the wrong area.
Right.
And that's why I think that what I'm doing today is I'm realizing, in order to make this vision work, in order to execute on trying to build something that I need help building, which is the better economy, I need to take this company that I've owned for 39 3/4 years and essentially give all its equity, all its assets to the world, and allow people to use it as a Kickstarter, as a primer, as something for people to build a new economy.
I mean, that's huge, but why would you do that? What does that all mean? That's amazing.
One of the most unhappy points in my life, which was around 2012, I had the most amount of money in my bank. I had built this company with $2,000 and at 20 years old, and built the technology that allowed IBMers to work from home. And they were my customer for 28 years. And they were a great, great partner and customer. We helped each other.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and they benefited a lot from that ability to have a small, nimble, 20-something-year-old kid who is building the technology that saved them $1 billion off of real estate because people can then work from home in the 1990s. What I went on to realize is that a company deteriorates greatly when they don't know how to manage their most important assets, which is culture. And I realized that when I came up with a solution to make conference calls more effective, to be able to suggest that there is a science that we can implement to give people that level of efficiency, and you tell the HR, the CHRO, we can save and make billions of dollars, they get angry and upset because they are supposed to have that mission, and when you tell them that they're not doing it, they get very upset. And they do things like take away your ID, And in 4 years, they roll you out of all your contracts. And I realized that if I could trigger that in a person who is at this C-level executive level, then the people who make up that position are basically thinking in a reactive way. They're thinking logically and in a very structured way. They're basically using their left brain, left logical side of their mind to manage something that requires a huge amount of empathy, understanding, and patterns. But to their defense, they have no understanding of how to do that. They don't have the tools. If you're a dictator and you've seen your father become a dictator and you're playing the game and that's the only game you ever knew, and no matter what the West says or anybody else says, this is the way that you're doing it, you're playing your game the best that you know how.
Right.
The fact that people die, the people that, have all these issues, you don't have another system. You haven't been taught that. But if you're taught that and you're shown that there is a better way, a way to be able to go down in history as somebody who has transformed humanity, somebody who has built a better reputation, well, you have the ability to now decide at this fork of the road what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue war? Do you want to continue starvation to control people? Do you want to be able to still manage your country like it was 300 years ago? Or do you want to enter the 21st century? Because one thing is for sure, you're not going to be able to keep progress at bay. You're going to have to be able to realize that your fate is inevitable and now can be predicted. So you can predict, when this dictator will be falling, when the country will transform itself. And what we can do now is we can add a huge improvement in the quality of people's lives.
That's incredible. Wow. So I wanted to ask you a bit more about this community. You just started talking a bit about how this impacts individuals and decisions. I mean, tell me about community. What is Betr community?
So I think when looking at the way that our inefficiencies exist today, we have to be able to realize that capitalism is a wonderful thing. It has very strong characteristics to it that obviously are aligned with human nature, specifically competition.
Okay.
But that competition was perfectly fine when we needed to live in a scarcity model, when it took large teams of people to build an automobile. And we needed to create a new entity that represented those thousands of auto workers who are going to be able to manufacture that, because if you didn't, and you didn't create incentives for the leaders and so forth to do that, you couldn't get very far. But that might have worked in the 50s and the 80s, even in the 90s. But what's happened is that technology can easily be turned into an oligopoly. And that's what is happening. The technology executives who say, we don't understand how AI works. We can tell you that your job will be replaced and don't worry, it's going to be okay, and give us zero assurance. And then we have a social media environment which is incented to produce doom scrolling that get paid and incented to ensure that people are staying in tune. Well, you've got a recipe for disaster, which is what we have today. But what you also have is this incredible business opportunity that is probably the largest business opportunity in human history, which is to take all of this technology and reverse engineer how we might be able to apply it to build a better world and a better society. And we realize that one of the best ways that you can teach adoption is using games, using entertainment. Because as soon as you use entertainment, you're now suspending those lower frequencies that people operate on when they are running the bureaucracy of a business. And they are now in the emotional and higher levels of frequency that they need in order to successfully manage large groups of people and stay mentally healthy.
That makes sense. Also, you know, a game sounds very unintrusive. It's not scary. You can participate in a way that makes sense for you. So can you give an idea of how would certain parts of it be a game?
So an example of a game might be, I have high schools around the world.
Okay.
Each of those high schools has students who are being taught the same way that they would have been taught before AI and before a lot of technology. Essentially, they're being taught to learn, but they're being taught to learn with skills that are not relevant, and that it's very difficult for bureaucracies, for people setting curricula, for people who are trying to figure out how to scale education, to be able to also understand how to reinvent that education. So one of the best ways I think we can do that is by using game. So we're going to create a game, for example, create the perfect pizza restaurant.
Okay.
And it will be...
Let's stop right there. I'm gonna start it again, so we don't